In a world where borders are supposed to bring people together, there is a harsh reality that defies this ideal.
The Trump administration is expanding its travel ban now. All immigrants from Nigeria will be banned.
Imagine if the color of your passport determined not only where you can travel, but also your worth as a human being.
Police also stopped me because I was a Nigerian, and then they arrested me and they even hit me.
Welcome to Passport Discrimination, where we focus on the hidden barriers faced by holders of African passports. The right to explore the world should be universal. But for millions of Africans, their passports are chains rather than keys. Get ready to embark on a journey that will challenge your perceptions, inspire your empathy, and encourage you to take action. The hurdles are high, from the sky-high visa fees to the endless document requirements. But the resilience of African people is higher. Come with us as we uncover the invisible walls that confine dreams and hinder opportunities, and learn how we can break them down together when a sing unfolds. As we move forward, I would like to request you to share any information you have about passports in the comment section. You can share details like when and where they were invented, who invented them, and why. If you are unsure about any of these details, there is no need to worry. You can simply sit back and watch. In the context of African countries, colonialism played a significant role in shaping passport policies during the colonial era. European powers imposed strict controls on the movement of indigenous populations, using passports and other travel documents as tools of control and surveillance. This had a lasting impact on the development of passport policies in these countries. Colonial powers, particularly in Europe, played a pivotal role in shaping passport policies in their colonies, including in African countries. These colonial legacies left an imprint on passport regulations, with discriminatory practices and restrictions imposed on indigenous populations. For example, during the colonial era, Africans were subjected to humiliating and degrading practices, such as passing laws and curfews, which restricted their movement and reinforced systems of oppression. In South Africa, the apartheid system implemented a strict pass system that segregated and controlled the movement of non-white populations, effectively confining them to designated areas and limiting their access to opportunities. Even after gaining independence, African countries continued to face the legacy of these colonial-era passport policies. Discriminatory regulations and practices persisted, continuing to limit the freedom of movement of African passport holders and perpetuating global inequalities. The effects of these policies were felt across the continent, with many African citizens facing significant obstacles to travel and migrate due to their nationality. Today, there are still issues of overt racism and discriminatory practices in the process of passport issuance and travel restrictions. African passport holders often face disproportionate hurdles in obtaining visas and traveling internationally, as evidenced by higher visa rejection rates and heightened scrutiny compared to their counterparts from Western countries. The modern passport system was originally designed to facilitate international mobility and promote greater freedom of movement. but it has sadly become a tool of injustice and discrimination for millions of people around the world. Despite efforts to address sexism and racism in citizenship and migration law, passports continue to perpetuate a system of global apartheid. Under this system, citizenship status is determined by factors such as bloodlines and arbitrary criteria beyond one's control. This has created a world where millions of people are denied the fundamental right to travel freely without fear of discrimination based on factors that have no bearing on their ability to contribute to society or to live fulfilling lives. I can certainly provide you with a lot of information about passports and their history. However, since that is not the main focus of this video, let's move on and discuss how passports are being used as a tool of discrimination against African passport holders. Discrimination against African passport holders remains a persistent issue rooted in historical and structural inequities. These inequalities are perpetuated by colonial legacies, economic exploitation, and geopolitical power dynamics, which disproportionately impact African countries and their citizens. Such structural inequities exacerbate the economic disparities encountered by African passport holders and amplify the challenges they face when traveling internationally. With all that in mind, it becomes self-evident that African passport holders often originate from nations with lower incomes and weaker currencies compared to other regions. Consequently, the financial burden of international travel is inflated for them, as even modest visa fees and flight costs can represent a significant portion of their income. In addition to the financial burden, African passport holders face extensive documentation requirements when applying for visas. The requirements can include bank statements demonstrating financial stability, which is common. But for African passport holders, this seems to go beyond. For example, Ugandan passport holders traveling to America are required to provide evidence of strong ties to Uganda. This trick under demonstrating financial stability is used to demonstrate the intention to return to Uganda after the temporary stay in the United States and includes proof of employment. But to be sure that you are going to get a visa, you better provide proof of business ownership, proof of property ownership, or other investments, proof of strong family ties in Uganda, or social connections and additional documentation, depending on the specific circumstances of the applicant, where additional documentation may be required. This could include medical examination reports, police clearance certificates, or other relevant documents. Remember, all that is just under financial stability, where an American citizen only provides a bank statement when traveling to Uganda. That is not even the end, as more documents are required. For many African passport holders, gathering these documents can be a time-consuming and arduous process, requiring significant effort and resources. The visa policies implemented by many countries reflect and perpetuate these systematic inequalities. African passport holders are subject to some of the most restrictive visa requirements globally, with limited visa-free access to other countries. Meanwhile, passport holders from wealthier and more politically powerful regions enjoy greater freedom of movement, reflecting a hierarchical system that privileges certain nationalities over others. It is sad that even though you try so much, you still face this now common problem that the majority of African passport holders face, the usual. I am talking about higher rates of visa rejections. Despite meeting all requirements and paying hefty fees, African passport holders experience disproportionately higher rates of visa rejections compared to individuals from other regions. This systemic bias in visa approval processes further exacerbates the financial burden and frustration faced by African travelers, as they often invest significant time and resources in visa applications only to be denied entry. It is important to note that the practice of discriminating against passports not only presents practical travel barriers, but also imposes significant psychological and emotional costs on African passport holders. Costs not widely recognized by people from other regions. This is particularly prevalent among Nigerian passport holders, who are increasingly experiencing restrictions and challenges when attempting international travel, including visa restrictions, visa denials, travel advisories, and border controls. In recent times, you will find thousands of videos from many Nigerians sharing personal stories and testimonials about their experiences with passport discrimination. The experience of being treated as second-class citizens in the global travel landscape can result in feelings of frustration, indignity, and helplessness. African passport holders are stigmatized and discriminated against based solely on their nationality, which can erode their sense of self-worth and belonging in the global community. Similarly, passport discrimination perpetuates inequalities and reinforces existing power imbalances between countries and regions. Preventing African passport holders' mobility hinders their ability to access opportunities for education, employment, and cultural exchange, perpetuating socio-economic disparities and hindering the development of African countries. This systemic discrimination not only deprives individuals of their fundamental rights, but also undermines the collective progress and prosperity of entire communities and nations. It is crucial to recognize that passport discrimination is not simply a bureaucratic inconvenience, but a manifestation of deeper structural inequalities and injustices in the global order. Addressing this issue necessitates collective action to challenge discriminatory practices, advocate for equitable policies, and promote greater inclusivity and solidarity in the global travel landscape. Passport discrimination is a significant issue that restricts the mobility of African passport holders, limiting their access to opportunities for education, employment, and business ventures abroad. This is due to denied visas and travel restrictions that prevent individuals from pursuing academic scholarships, attending job interviews, or participating in international conferences. As a result, this hinders their personal and professional development. In addition, passport discrimination has significant implications for African countries. Discriminatory visa policies, which are often based on qualifications submitted by applicants, contribute to a brain drain of skilled and capable individuals. This selective immigration of the most talented individuals results in a reduced skill set and less capacity for innovation and development within the home country, as the visa processing and issuance practices favor the skilled minority. the unskilled majority is left behind, negatively affecting the country's progress. Again, passport discrimination and travel restrictions deter foreign investors and businesses from engaging with African countries. The perception of instability and risk associated with travel restrictions can discourage foreign investment, limiting economic growth and job opportunities. Additionally, restricted mobility for African entrepreneurs hampers cross-border trade and investment partnerships, stifling economic development. Another impact of passport discrimination is that it can disrupt remittance flows, which many African passport holders rely on to support their families and communities back home. This is due to restrictions on travel or the increased cost and the time associated with it. Reduced remittances deprive families of vital financial support and weaken local economies, exacerbating poverty and inequality. Lastly, passport discrimination reinforces existing inequalities between African countries and wealthier regions. The unequal treatment of African passport holders in visa issuance and travel policies perpetuate a system where certain nationalities are privileged over others. Based on geopolitical and economic factors, this systemic discrimination undermines efforts to achieve sustainable development and equality on a global scale. The issue of passport discrimination faced by African passport holders remains a significant concern that demands immediate attention. To address this issue, there is a need to implement strategic solutions that promote fairness and equality in visa policies and travel regulations. This includes advocating for reforms in visa policies that reduce barriers and facilitate travel for African passport holders. One way to achieve this is by promoting visa-free travel agreements, reciprocal visa waiver programs, and more streamlined visa application processes. The varying requirements for visas between Kenya and certain European Union member countries highlight the need for greater reciprocity and reform in visa policies, ensuring fairness and equality in global mobility. It is noteworthy that German, French, Italian, Spanish, and Dutch citizens can travel to Kenya for tourism or business purposes for up to 90 days without a visa. Conversely, Kenyan citizens are typically required to obtain a visa when traveling to these EU countries for the same reasons or other purposes. Such a discrepancy is both discriminatory and undermines the principles of fairness and reciprocity in international relations. A more equitable and efficient system of visa regulations could facilitate greater mobility for individuals, foster economic growth and cultural exchange, and strengthen diplomatic ties between nations. Advocating for human rights and challenging discriminatory practices in visa issuance and travel regulations is crucial. Civil society organizations, human rights groups, grassroots movements, or videos like this one can play a vital role in raising awareness about passport discrimination and mobilizing support for policy reforms. Perhaps advocacy efforts can pressure governments to enact change. Building capacity and fostering collaboration among government agencies, international organizations, and civil society stakeholders are essential for effectively addressing passport discrimination. This includes investing in training programs for immigration officials to promote fair and unbiased decision-making, enhancing data collection and analysis on visa issuance and travel patterns, and fostering partnerships between governments and civil society organizations to monitor and evaluate progress towards greater mobility and inclusivity. Embracing digital solutions and technology innovations can streamline visa application processes, reduce administrative burdens, and enhance transparency and accountability in visa issuance. Digital platforms for visa applications and online visa processing systems can improve access to information, facilitate communication between applicants and immigration authorities, and ensure that visa policies are implemented in a non-discriminatory manner. Promoting international cooperation and diplomacy is essential for advancing reforms in visa policies and travel regulations. African governments should engage with their counterparts in other regions to advocate for fair and equitable treatment of African passport holders and to negotiate mutually beneficial agreements on visa facilitation and mobility. Multilateral forums such as the United Nations, the African Union, and regional organizations provide platforms for dialogue and collaboration on global mobility issues. I hope this video has given you a new perspective on the power of your passport. It can be a key to global travel for some and a barrier for others. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I encourage you to watch our other explorations on the channel, such as this one, where I raise awareness about life in Canada. In that video, I discussed 10 pros and 10 cons of living in this dream destination. Please enjoy yourself and have a great time.